We want to move on to the keynote of today's session. We want to be able to share a lot of different things that we think can help you moving forward. And I'm excited to have Jason Duff, who is the founder and CEO of Small Nation. Jason has done, and his team has done amazing work in rehabbing communities, rehabbing small towns and downtowns, and doing it with entrepreneurial focus, with small business and small business ownership. And I think you're going to be really excited to hear what he talks about and some of the information he's going to share with you. So without further delay, let's bring him up. Jason Duff.
Thank you, Mike. Good morning, everyone. It is great to be here with some of my favorite people because two things that I really, really love are small business owners. We got a few of those in the room today. Yeah, okay. Small towns and neighborhoods. You know, the dean opened up and we heard from Mike and Stephanie and many of the speakers that are here is that this is Ohio's time. Like the amount of new foreign direct investment that's coming to our state, the reshoring of manufacturing, companies and industries like Honda that are electrifying their vehicles. About every leader around the state is talking about, and they should be, not only around the state, but around the country of the incredible things that are happening here in Ohio. But the thing that really fuels a lot of that behind the scenes are a lot of the small businesses, independent businesses, entrepreneurs, and intrapreneurs, which an intrapreneur is someone that has the entrepreneurial mindset, but maybe works in an organization or a school or a company. That kind of thinking is needed because our towns, our communities, and our neighborhoods also have a lot of problems and a lot of challenges. I see some people shaking their heads, right? Well, when you are an entrepreneur or an intrapreneur, that level of thinking is how do we bridge gaps? How do we create and innovate new ideas? And how do we activate time, treasure, and capital to build and develop something new? So today, I've got some time with you that I'd like to share a little bit about my story and the work that I do at my company, Small Nation. Small Nation invests in places, spaces, and dreams for towns and communities. How that came about is I am a product of a third-generation family business. Any family business owners in here? Man, I feel your pain. The minute that you come out of the womb, it's like, you got a job, right? No, you know, both my parents, my dad, we had businesses in construction materials and sold lumber and concrete and stone. And my mom operated a Hallmark shop. How many of you remember the curio cabinet years of the Hallmark collectibles? Yes, we got a few of those in here. Do you still have your Precious Moments collection? Yes? Okay, how many of you have the Beanie Babies? Yes. Well, you know that the theme of this session today is about the Capital Crash Course. I'm here to tell you how I funded most of my business is on Beanie Babies. No, it's not the case. But we are going to talk about some creative ways to fund capital. But no, I mean, growing up in family business, one of the first things you want to do as you get older, like going through high school, is I didn't want to work for the family business long term, and I wanted to get the heck out of my small town. So my town that I grew up in is in the Columbus region. So Logan County is about 60 miles northwest of right where we're at here in Columbus. The county seat is Bellefontaine. The town that I grew up in was Huntsville, Ohio. So if you go up 33 and you tee off to 117 like you're heading to Lima, my town had one stoplight, one gas station, and a little trolley that has the best ice cream that you'll ever get. But no, growing up in a small town and neighborhood has its pluses and its negatives. If you want to flip out your very traditional conservative small business parents, you tell them you're going to go to a liberal arts college and be a music major. I had a music teacher in high school that said, Jason, you have a talent, and a talent that probably would qualify for a scholarship. And in my family, I'm a first-generation college student, so the idea of getting an education was not really in our family conversations. But I went to Ohio Northern University in Ada. I got a degree in music, and also had the chance at the university to get a degree in business. But the time that I was away from where I grew up, the county seat of our town, a lot of things changed. The big box pharmacies came into the town and built on every corner and bought out and closed up the independents. The men's clothing store that when I was 13 years old, the owner, Jim Greer, he taught me how to tie a tie. And as a young man, that was a really important life skill. And unfortunately, his business closed as well. You would go up and down the streets, and within a very short amount of time, 80% of the first floors of downtown Bellefontaine, Ohio, were vacant and empty. So imagine, how do you think that makes people feel that when you drive in your town or another town and you see broken glass, you see boarded up windows, and you see a lack of people walking on the sidewalks, the streets, and also a place where crime happens? How do you think that makes people feel? Not good. The other challenge that a town like Bellefontaine had is many people don't even know how to pronounce it, let alone have a reason to visit there, okay? And that wasn't always the case. I mean, if you went back 100 years ago, and you think about Ohio's history, the railroad was a massive change as industry moved east to west. And it just happened, the DNA of the town, the Columbus, Cleveland, Cincinnati Railroad, Bellefontaine was the hub. That was a point of time in entrepreneurship and in engineering and innovation that the town had its high from about 1890 to 1930. And as you think about your neighborhoods, your towns, your communities, the state of economies and the state of business, there's something called the product life cycle. The product life cycle is where early adopters and innovation, the business really, really grows. And then as that town or that product or that community becomes at its peak, it doesn't oftentimes stay at its peak. And that's okay, because it's an opportunity for all the people in the room to step in and use your ideas, your hustle, your drive, your innovation to change it. So for me, recognizing the problems that we had in Bellefontaine, I needed to tie into the history of the town. And I spoke earlier this morning about two different brain types that I am really focused on today. One is, how do we understand and preserve what makes the fabric of our neighborhoods, our towns, our communities? What is in its DNA in terms of culture, history, architecture, and people? How do we preserve that? But then there's another brain type that's oftentimes conflicting, and that's, how do we innovate and prepare for the future? What is the change? And sometimes when people hear the word change, they start, getting all antsy about it, because that change sometimes makes us uncomfortable to think about there might be new ways that we need to do things. But when I tapped into Bellefontaine's history, I learned that in 1891, George Bartholomew mixed clay, sand, and marl and invented concrete. And at the time, he was going to use his experimental pavement that had never been used, and he poured the first concrete street in America. Well, what do you think people said about George and his new ideas in 1891? Well, I know what they said because I've read the newspapers from that time. They said that he was going to fail. They required him to buy a $5,000 bond, so when the pavement failed, that the old established pavement that has always been used could be put down. And there were quote after quote of people sending flaming arrows saying that he would not be successful. Well, you fast forward to today, you visit Bellefontaine, Ohio, and you'll see that there's a beautiful archway and a statue of George Bartholomew, because that is the oldest concrete street in America, and it's still driven on as a street today. So as I thought about how we have to rebrand the town and be able to storytell what makes Bellefontaine unique, this became a foundational element. So here's what I'm here to tell you today. Bellefontaine is known for being the highest, the shortest, and the first. Geographically, in our very flat state, at 1,600 feet elevation, Bellefontaine is the peak of Ohio. So when you come and visit, if you're in the winter especially, you can come ski at our ski resort at Mad River Mountain. Secondly, when you visit the downtown and grab a great cup of coffee and walk around all the shops, the boutiques, the restaurants, there is the world's shortest street, McKinley Street, is in Bellefontaine, Ohio, and there's a gigantic selfie wall behind that you can get pictures with all your friends on the world's shortest street. And the first ties back to George as really creating the first concrete street in America. And I know what you're thinking. Those are all weird, kind of, not really significant facts. Well, it's significant when you storytell and you give people a reason to say, now I know about Bellefontaine, Ohio. And I think that's what we need, is to think about the history of when our neighborhoods and our towns were flourishing. This is a postcard of businesses in Bellefontaine that are now internationally known businesses today, like JCPenney's, Sears and Roebuck, GC Murphy's. All of these businesses incubated somewhere in a neighborhood, in a town, in a main street near you. And so when I saw all these empty buildings when I come back home, it gave me the courage and the idea to say, I want to do something about it. And at the time, being youthful, for those of you that might be a little youthful in the room, you've got time on your side because you can make big, bold mistakes and you've got times to correct. That was my case, is I didn't know a lot, but my risk tolerance was really high and I had the courage to try to push the envelope. The challenge of being young is a lot of people didn't believe in me or respect me, and I did not have a track record of experience. So for some of you in the room that might be a little more experienced, that's on the pro category of having credibility, knowledge, and life experience and lenses that can help you be successful in business. Well, here's the thing. We all need each other. We all need each other. So fast forward to today. It's been about 15 years, heads down, starting businesses, coaching businesses, working with entrepreneurs, celebrating the highs, dealing with the failures, being there and holding hands when we have the lows. But we have created 3 event centers. We've started 7 new downtown restaurants. We've renovated 56 historic buildings in downtown Bellefontaine. We have worked with 3 community banks to get access to $35 million in private capital that has funded now more than 20 specialty retail stores in the downtown. And we've also helped build on the upper floors of these towns apartments and places for people to live, 40+ loft apartments. Now, when you're thinking, are those just luxury loft apartments? No, they're not. So how many of you here have an idea or a dream, or maybe you already own a restaurant or want to do something in the food service? Let me tell you about housing. If you do not have housing that your dishwashers can afford, you do not have a restaurant. Because the critical function of running back of the house in a restaurant is having clean dishes and being efficient with your labor hours of making sure that your dishwashers and your back of house staff, your labor cost is functioning properly. So in the continuum of economic development, we need to be working with our real estate partners in our community to also create affordable housing solution. We also need luxury housing. We also need short-term rentals and Airbnbs, because if you become known as a day trip kind of town that people want to celebrate girls' night out, or they want to have a date night weekend, or they want a place to do fun things with their kids of visiting the ski resort or Ohio Caverns, which is 15 minutes away in a neighboring town, you need those short-term rentals for people to live. So there's a whole continuum of what we're trying to do to solve that problem. Here's what I'm most proud of in the work that we've done. In the last 10 years, 70% of the new business owners in downtown Bellefontaine are under the age of 40, and 75% of them are women. So the truth about it is there's a rock star group of young leading ladies that are reshaping our town. Yeah, that's right. And I'm going to share a little bit. I love the storytell, so I get to spotlight and highlight some of them. But why is this important? Well, it generates new jobs, and jobs generate income taxes. Properties get improved, which generate property taxes. That funds the fire department. It funds our local schools. So many of our problems in our neighborhoods are actually economic problems. We just don't have the words to use them. So I look at all of you in the room. You are so important to the fabric of what's happening here in the Columbus region and beyond. And I applaud you for taking time to work on your business, because most of us, and this is a fatal flaw as you go throughout your life and your career being an entrepreneur, it is really hard because you're working in your business so much of taking the time to work on your business and you as a person with your professional development and your skills and your network. Here's how we did it. So a big part of reshaping a neighborhood is getting access to the real estate, finding ways to get control of it so you can save historic buildings, so you can renovate properties, so you can find ways to make properties safer and bring them up to code. The other big thing is finding ways to recruit tenants. Those tenants might be a home-based business that have yet to have a place that they can kick the tires and try out their idea. They could also be a business in a neighboring town or community that feels unappreciated and underappreciated. And that is a real challenge in our community. There's a lot of people that feel unappreciated and underappreciated, that if your community or your neighborhood says, we are the place to do business, we welcome new ideas and you to come, that could be a game changer there. The other thing is we're going to talk more about, and you're going to hear from other speakers today, is how we get access to capital. Capital now is expensive. And so we have to get super creative of finding ways to get that capital and those loans. And then the last piece is becoming an equity partner is really more than just, being a landlord. It's actually locking arms with someone and forming a partnership agreement to say, we believe in your idea so much, or we like working with you so much. If you like working with us the same way, let's grow and build something long term. And I'll share with you, the statistics about partnerships are not good. The statistics about new business startups and failures is not good. But the way to really beat those odds is to find the right partners and have the right difficult conversations up front and find a way to not be the statistic, be the positive statistic. The last piece is that designing, marketing, and promoting. So I'm going to move on. Is Brittany Saxton, when she was 14 years old, started washing dishes in Kenton, Ohio. She became, after that, a line cook, a pizza chef, an assistant manager, and she worked for an incredible mentor named Michael Shepard that opened up Michael Angelo's Pizza. Michael was really well known around the country for making some of the best New York-style pizza, and he worked with Brittany to share his recipe for making dough. He took her out when he founded the World Pizza Games in Las Vegas and created competitions for other pizzerias around the country to compete and show off their best practices in baking, their best practices in how much they can stretch the dough, the acrobatics of doing pizza dough tossing, all the creative sides of that makes what could be a very standard kind of industry really fun, cool, and build a career and profession out of it. When we wanted to change downtown Bellefontaine, the thing that people wanted the most was a sit-down dining restaurant. Well, we had a lot of chains and franchises in our town. In fact, we had a lot of pizza places. So when Brittany and Michael took the step to open up their restaurant in downtown Bellefontaine, what do you think people had to say? You're going downtown, there's no parking. Have you ever heard that argument before? You're going downtown. It's not safe to go downtown. Why would anyone want to be in that area? All the negatives and the flaming arrows came at us, but what they didn't know is the kind of pizzas and experience that Brittany would make. Brittany has been on the Food Network twice. She was on Guy's Grocery Games and got second place out of 4 international chefs. Here's a point about the Columbus ecosystem. Brittany, if you know much about Guy Fieri's shows, Guy's Grocery Games, you know that they put a lot of these chefs in a full culinary kitchen with every piece of equipment that you've ever imagined. Brittany had only worked on a pizza oven, and she still got second place out of 4 international chefs on that show. And it was other Columbus chefs that quickly mentored her and coached her to be able to do what she does. The other thing is look what she's done to the neighborhood. Taken a vacant, empty building, incorporated an outdoor patio, which changed the whole life, the energy, the excitement. The other thing that I'm proud of her, she makes some of the best pizzas in the country. The pizza that you see up here has a base of ranch dressing, grilled chicken, mozzarella, bacon, and kettle-cooked potato chips on top. It is literally a health food. The Washington Post just rated 600 downtown as having the #1 best Detroit-style crust in all of Ohio. This was about 2 months ago. That Detroit-style crust, the dough is infused with local honey. It's par-baked 2 days prior to let that dough ferment, and all the toppings go right on top. And they only make 35 of them a day. So if you do not get there early enough and get a Detroit, it's sold out. And this is the kind of stuff that's happening in Bellefontaine, Ohio. The other crazy thing is my office back in 2017, we got a call on our office line that the caller ID said the White House. And so I was like, oh, spam. Call back again, spam. Third time I took the call was the office liaison of the White House because they had heard about Bellefontaine, Ohio, the pieces that Brittany were making. They said we'd like her to come to speak in the Rose Garden about what she's doing using a program called the Opportunity Zone. It just happened to be that downtown Bellefontaine was in an Opportunity Zone, and Brittany had used that program to build and grow her restaurant. And pretty sobering moment for me to be able to go with her and sit in the audience and watch her speak on stage about her business and her story from Kenton, Ohio. And let me just tell you, that's the unique thing that's happening in our neighborhoods. A lot of those stories are not being told, and it's our job to highlight and tell those stories. This is just the opportunity zones in the Columbus, Ohio region. There are actually many others where you can benefit from a capital gain going in, substantially approve a property, hold that vehicle for 10 years, and when and if you sell that business or property, there is no capital gain. It is a really, really powerful tool for businesses that want to invest or renovate or improve real estate, with the plan to buy and hold for a period of 10 years with having a sale event after that 10 years. So this is the business that she expanded in the Opportunity Zone, building the Bellavino Events and Wine Room. So if you have a really great restaurant and pizzeria in an empty store next door, here's what we did. Is we read in Columbus Business First, probably this has been 6 or 7 years ago, Witt's Frozen Custard was closing in the Short North. It was an announcement. So the first thing I did is I picked up the phone call. I call the franchisee, and I say, if you've not experienced Witt's, it's incredible stuff. And I say, I'm so sorry your business closed. I loved your product. What happened? And he said, well, my rent doubled. Parking is $20 a day. And I can't find anyone to work for me for under $15 an hour. He said, you run the math selling $3 custards. And I said, I get it, I'm sorry. And I said, my next question was, my next question to him was, what do you need? And that's a question that I don't think we ask enough. We said, well, here's what I need. I gotta be moved out of this space in 28 days. And I said, well, I can take care of that. It's like, have you ever heard of Bellefontaine, Ohio? He's like, Bella where? So we have an empty building. You know, I know you've been through a lot of trauma, but I said, our rent is half. I know employees that would love to work from you, and we don't have those same parking fees. And so directly next to the pizzeria is a Witt's Frozen Custard. When you cluster a neighborhood or place make, a really busy pizzeria that sometimes you can only get in with reservation only, and you put a place for people to get dessert afterwards, what do you think happens to both of those businesses? They rise. And then the empty storefront, the long empty, so Wits only needed a small portion of the front of the building. The whole back of the building, I said, Brittany, how could you make money with this? She said, I have a perfect idea. Let me show you my Pinterest board. She visioned up this beautiful wine cave, okay? And I said, Brittany, that's not in our budget, but let's see what we can do. So I don't have a picture in this slide, but when you come and visit Bellefontaine, this wine cave, peel and stick stone on the side, beautiful barrel ceiling with brick wallpaper and luxury vinyl tile. But you'd look at it and it would be, there, I actually do have a slide. That's it right there. This is Bellefontaine Events and Wine Room. So what you can have in a restaurant now, a private event room that you can set a minimum to book it, and you can book that calendar out in the future and collect deposits. What do you think that does for your business? Her liquor license extends into it. Her catering extends into it. So you start to see we're building out an ecosystem of entrepreneurs that want to help each other, because Wits wins when they sell more pizza. When they sell more pizza, Wits wins, and now we've got a place for parties and events that catering, everyone can cater to. And I think that's the kind of example. Sometimes we've got to find non-traditional sources of capital. So when I first started out buying buildings, there weren't a lot of banks that were standing in line saying, Jason, we love these vacant, very challenged neighborhoods and towns. We think you're going to turn this around. Because most of these buildings, every time it would rain, there'd be a beautiful water feature right in the center of the property. How many of you appreciate fine art? So you'd walk into many of the buildings that I would look at, and every color of mold would permeate the drywall in this beautiful mosaic. I couldn't sell the idea to get a bank to lend me money. So early days, I had to go to other entrepreneurs that were experienced and that knew that I had a lot of drive, a lot of hustle, and a lot of good ideas, but they would give me a small loan that I would sign a promissory note and agree to pay that amount of capital back to them within a certain amount of time at a specific rate of interest. Oftentimes, that type of capital can be more costly for the interest rate or the interest expense than a traditional bank loan. But my problem was I had no other option to start out, and I'm thankful that I had that option because it got me the track record and the experience to get some of these buildings renovated. The other thing that can come up in private money lending conversations is the people you get access to. Oftentimes, people that have money, they've achieved financial success, and they have life experience that they might be willing to lend in addition to their capital. That is very valuable. Sometimes you can't even put a price on that because for a lot of traditional commercial banks or credit unions or savings and loans, your loan officer most likely is not an entrepreneur or has never been an entrepreneur. They can provide training and resources and help, but that's a differentiator. Sometimes I think a lot of private money lending can get a bad rap, but I'm here to share with you in some cases, it could be an entire blessing. Because you might find altruistic people in your town and neighborhood that they don't need to get the premium interest rate. They just want to be involved in doing something good and seeing the next generation of their legacy of what they do play out into the future as well. So private money lending is something to keep on your list of capital sources. I want to share the story of these two sisters. Carly and Hannah were baking breads out of their home. They were passionate about raising small fruits and vegetables and mushrooms and all kinds of unique herbs and spices in their home garden. But as they would travel to bigger cities, and I think one of the sisters took a trip to Europe, It was learning about the culture of making bread, and not only how therapeutic that is, but the health benefits of the things that go in to make bread, and how they could break bread with different people in the community. So they became big champions and advocates of the Logan County Farmers Market, which in a rural area, one of the plus things that we have is we have a lot of farmers and people that make things and people that take things from the community that make products that serve our community. And so they wanted to take their home-based bakery and take the next step to actually formalize it into a storefront. The problem is they needed a $50,000 oven and a real estate partner to help with the build out to bring that commercial kitchen online to do so. And that's again where we've seen a lot of success of rebuilding towns and neighborhoods. It's finding the real estate, it's getting access to landlords and business owners that want to invest in that kitchen, because now today, these breads and bagels are utilized in so many of the restaurants in our town. So if you visit Bellefontaine, and if you've ever heard of the Brew Fountain in Bellefontaine, it is a craft beer bar, and it was founded by 3 guys that have beards that created a club in Bellefontaine called the Bellefontaine Body Bearding Club. Yes, 28 guys that compete in bearding competitions around the country. And I had a chance to meet with them. They said, Jason, please come to one of our events. I'm like, guys, we have a problem. I cannot grow a beard. But I'm happy I went to one of their events, which they were raising money to save and restore our local Holland Theater, because I listened to great music, I ate great food, and I drank some of the most unique craft beer that I've ever had. Well, the problem was 10 years ago in Logan County, there was not a great place to get a craft beer. You had to drive 45 minutes or 50 minutes to get that. The other problem is we lacked great coffee. We lacked great local food. And I happen to think that the economic development of today and the tourism aspects today is how good your neighborhood's local coffee shop is, and where you can get a craft beer, and where you can experience something unique. So if you come to the Brew Fountain, their Mama John's panini is really good. Their rotating line of 16 taps and the stuff they curate is awesome. But you want to order the Mustache pretzels. And here's why. They're baked by Rise Bakehouse. Why is that important? I'm going to give you a quick business lesson. Brew Fountain has a small kitchen space, but to prep and make their pretzels, they were bringing in more of their prep cooks earlier in the day, sometimes 5 a.m. in the morning, to have the pretzels available for lunch. The cost to bring in that extra labor to make the pretzels, it actually made a lot more business sense to outsource to someone that specializes in baking. And so Rise makes these beautiful mustache pretzels that are perfect for Instagram. They're $9.95 for 4 of them on the Brew Fountain menu. Rise Bakehouse makes $1 per pretzel. So you see the difference for the $4 that Rise Bakehouse gets. Brew Fountain gets to double it. And because Brew Fountain servers are so good, when you order the mustache pretzels, the next question they're going to ask, would you like to add the locally made mustard from Saucy Sal's or our house-made beer cheese? How many of you are going to say no to that? Right? $2. It moves it to almost a $14 appetizer. Not only the pretzels are great, you've had a great experience, but that's now drives the profit for helping Brew Fountain be successful. Do you start to see how important, when you build your business plan, to design those ways to not only create good things for your community, but to be profitable? Profit is not a dirty word. It's a great word, because it's going to give you more energy to do more good things in your life and your business and your community. So my claim of fame, about 6 months ago when the SVB banking crisis hit, a reporter from CNBC reached out to me and said, hey, Jason, what are you seeing on Main Street? Are banks slowing up how they're lending? And I had a very personal experience that happened to me, is that I was renovating a building in our town that's 40,000 square feet, 3 stories, 13 storefronts. It's known as the historic Opera Block. And we had traditionally worked with a local savings and loan. That's a very small, tiny institution, but a great community partner. but my loan application was up for presenting to the local small savings and loan 3 days after the SVB collapse. And what was feeding through the ecosystem at the time is a lot of fear and a lot of uncertainty, particularly with commercial real estate right now. There's not a lot of people running to invest in commercial real estate. So I received a phone call from a local partner just saying, Jason, I'm really sorry, but we cannot move forward with you on this project. Wow. Like, I mean, we had commenced construction contracts. We had a lot of plans. Like, I thought all along, like, all this deal's going to happen. And then the news hit that it didn't. So I shared a very personal story on Squawk Box about right now, we as entrepreneurs and small business owners need to be looking at all of our capital sources. We need to be building our relationships with our banks, big and small. We need to be understanding the access to credit cards and revolving credit that we have. We need to be looking at sources with private money lending. We need to be talking about what grants or what other programs might be available to fund our ideas. Have to look at it all and understand the cost associated with it. So here's the thing that I did. When we were missing and not having a diversity of banks in our community, we had a Carnegie Library that was an underutilized building in our town that we were very intentional to go out and find other small business community-minded banks. We actually recruited them to the town. So Richwood Bank just opened up about a year ago in downtown Bellefontaine in a Carnegie Library. They also, this bank put a coffee shop that they own and run, that when you buy coffee, all that money goes back to serving nonprofits in the community. Here's why they did this. So many banks are moving online, closing their branches. This little bank that has 6 locations in West Central Ohio, and they just opened up in Springfield as well, is now putting coffee shops in their branches because they want people coming into the branch. They want relationships, connections, people. So sometimes if you're missing something in your community, my advice to you, go find them, bring them to your town, your neighborhood, your community. So today, the Opera Block looks a little different. Before, the city condemned the 2nd and 3rd story. We had lots of problems, safety issues. We had, this was a really big, if this building caught a fire, if this building came down, you can imagine what it would do to our town. A little bit of paint, a little bit of elbow grease. Now there are 13 new businesses that are in here, everything from the One-Eyed Cookie Lab, which is an amazing, if you've been to Crumble Cookie, you've got to come to Bellefontaine to experience One-Eyed Cookie Lab. It is a locally owned version, a baker that makes incredible cookies. The Queen of Hearts, fine chocolates and gifts. If you've not experienced the brand chocolates and truffles from Fort Wayne, Indiana, we now have a shop in our town. Absolutely incredible. Farm Charm, which is repurposing a lot of beautiful old furniture, doors, windows, and giftware. Glitter and Grit. I mean, this whole building, it feels like it's right out of Europe, but it's now an ecosystem of locally owned businesses. Grant opportunities. So there are a lot of partners, and what we're very blessed with the work that Mike and the programs that are available here at Columbus State, you have a whole ecosystem of people that are here and want to help you. What I think you need to do is articulate the areas that you need help and the partners that you need. For us, Jobs Ohio has created an inclusive project planning grant because they have recognized that outside of the big 3 C's, there are a lot of parts of Ohio that have not benefited from getting access to grants and programs that can help the planning of working with architects and engineers to even see what could be possible in their community. So we obtained a grant from Jobs Ohio for $20,000 to help renovate and produce the plans and documents to get to the point that we could get construction estimates and the things that we needed for the Opera Block. And that is also leading to another program that's available in a lot of communities outside of the large big 3 C's. That is the Vibrant Community Grant Program. And that's up to matching grants now up to $1 million for real estate renovations for catalytic projects in towns and neighborhoods and communities. So when you come to downtown Bellefontaine, I please hope that you do. This is definitely a project to walk around, see, and experience. The other thing that my company does is that we provide a lot of support to our tenants and to our businesses. one thing that I don't think we realize enough until you're in it, starting a business and owning a business is a very lonely world. There is a lot of things that maybe you could go to your significant other or your family, and in some cases, many significant others and families are not supportive of their entrepreneurs. That's actually more common than not. So this is what you've got to do. You've got to find other people that will be your trusted partners, your mastermind, your person that you can vent to say, this just happened to me. I need to process it. I need to vent to someone. I need to communicate that. The other thing is they also be there to celebrate your successes or introduce you to people and resources that you may need. You'll probably need an attorney. You will probably need a CPA. You will probably need advisors. And so this is a big thing that we provided on our website, including with our podcast as we dive deep, doing interviews with people, of walking through all those support elements of trusted advisors, partners, people, and their journey and their story to doing so. The other thing that I'll kind of mention is that we give a lot away for free. And I believe that because I like to travel to other places and meet other people and do a lot of research and development. Do you know what research and development really is? It's rip and duplicate, right? So if you heard something today, if you're curious about, well, I'm going to open up a boutique or a shop or a pet store, look up downtown Bellefontaine on your map. It is worth the day trip just to come up and walk around town with your phone out to say, I had no idea of what they did with their signage. That is super cool. Or I love to walk into this business and see how they cross-sell and promote or provide me a free chocolate tasting coupon when I finish dinner to go over and check out the chocolate shop. Oh, Toys R Us may be out of business, but the most incredible kids toy shop in all of Ohio, with every Lego, every cool kid thing from being 1 to 99, the Fun Company is a place to experience. These models that we are figuring out, and these business owners that are being successful, can be ripped and duplicated all across the state. And so that's kind of what, with the QR code there, I drop a weekly email blast with a podcast, with resources, with tools. But the easiest way, if you like some of the things you heard today, jump in a car, take a day trip experience to downtown Bellefontaine. It's actually a great weekend town. A lot of the businesses are open throughout the weekend too. But I just am so excited to share with you, and hopefully a few of the capital ideas that you heard today and new business ideas spurred some new things that as you head into the speakers and the panel later on today will keep you excited too. But it is just a pleasure to meet all of you and spend time with you. And I'm going to be around the sessions if you want to connect. And then my team member, Nick, we've got resources set up. So if you want to take some stuff back home with you, we've got some brochures of some of the things that we shared today. So Nick, if we put those out on the table, we'll leave those up there for people to take. Actually, you're like Vanna Nick. That's really nice. But thank you very much. And I want to make sure be respectful of time. Do we have time for any Q&A or got to move on? 10 minutes. So thank you very much. Let's think about the tough questions. Could be something that you're dealing with, something that you're curious about. What are things that maybe bubbled up as I spoke today that I could maybe provide some advice for you on? Yes.
So you mentioned intrapreneurs, and so I am a psychologist and I work in special education and developmental disabilities, but I also have a very big passion for transforming the way that we approach special education to actually do something as opposed to check the federal boxes. So I'm unsure how to apply some of this within, my world. I have a product. I know it works. I know it works.
So
What do I do next?
I love that. Entrepreneurs, if you think of you're in a group situation with other team members, they're oftentimes the people that love the brainstorming time the most. There are some people that are very list-based people. It's like they get super annoyed by brainstorming new ideas or new concepts. They're like, this is really draining my energy. Just give me the list and I want to go do it. I really value entrepreneurial thinking in committees, organizations, structures, because we need those people that will maybe push the boundaries a little bit or come up with a different way of doing it. One of the things that I have recently learned, and this may be helpful to this group, some people in the room have brain types and personality types that you're really good at recognizing, seeing all the same things. That's called a same type of brain. I happen to not be that. I'm a difference brain, which I really annoy people that are same types of brains, because every time I go into an environment, I see all the things that I identify as wrong. They just happen to be different. So you can imagine when I come into my team, because in my town, I am like integrated, like I'm there every day. I'm checking to make sure sidewalks are clean. I'm walking in to make sure there's toilet paper in every one of the bathrooms. Like, I cannot turn this off. I'm just trained to see all the differences. But the same people on my team, every time I come in, like, well, we put on this huge event and it was really awesome, it was great. And then I come in, yeah, it was really, really great, but I saw this and this and this and this and this. I'm just gonna say, amongst entrepreneurs, we actually need both types, but you need to find out what your gift is. And if it's a difference brain, it actually just works out really well for like what I do, because I get to go into towns and communities and study what I've seen work in other places, but then I go into their town and I see the differences of what could be fixed. So I guess my point is, in your organization, the more that you can learn about who you are, what your gift is, how your brain type is, your personality type is, and then complement yourself with people that are very different from you, that have different skills, that's the secret sauce. But I also say, do not bury your weird. In the earlier session, we were talking about earlier today, I'm like, I can really out-weird about anyone. So like, if you've got a weird, try to bring it on, because I can probably out-weird you. But like, here's the thing. I want, that's celebrating the not conforming. And I'll tell you, most people in the room, many of you are probably constitutionally unemployable. Anyone's shaking their heads? Can we say an amen to that? Right? So like, but that's the thing. I mean, I'll just tell you, like, we need people conforming. I mean, we need people that will push the envelope, that will challenge the ideas. And that's what we are doing for the Columbus region. That's why we need to celebrate more entrepreneurs and more small business owners. But on the flip side of each other, we really have to support each other. This group, I hope you make lifelong friends out of the cohort and the group and people that you're around. And if you've not yet defined your tribe, I promise you they're out there. You just haven't started looking hard enough. You will find them. Yes? So the question was, starting out, you can have a lot of energy, but what are the tangible assets that you had to get started, and what are some of the intangible assets? So real assets are easier to qualify, and when you first start out, unless you have some big inheritance or you're gifted a lot of stuff, which in some family businesses, that can be a burden, a challenge in its own right. It could be a good or bad thing. But a lot of times we start out with our balance sheet or the assets that we have being very, very low, which I think being hungry forces you to say, I want to work hard. I may sacrifice something in the short term to work hard to build something else. And I'm not bashful about, I want to help people build their empires and their wealth and their opportunities, because I look at money and energy as a currency. It's kind of the same thing. If you sacrifice your time, energy, and talent, you deserve to make money to propel your mission and your good even more. And there's a lot of things in society around, greed exists, it does, but there's actually a lot of good that people are doing with money and resources. So I tend to double down. That's the community that I've found mostly in this world, particularly with small business owners. But the intangible assets that are most important is the people you surround yourself with, and I'm going to prepare you. The people that you start out with, you will have people that will disappoint you in life. You may lose a business partner. If you have not had someone steal from you, you will have someone steal for you. If you've not, you think that your customers are going to be your family and friends, no, there'll be a point that they probably get so jealous of your success that they're not supporting you. This is all the real talk that you don't get when you read the textbook, okay? But this is what I will tell you that will come out of it. The bright side, you find out, my friends have mostly shifted to be other business owners because they understand that I can't hit the happy hour at 5 o'clock at night. They understand that I come home so exhausted from the day's events of deciding what I call paper cut decisions. You start out your energy fuel tank in the morning to make decisions, but by the time you get through all your emails, your text message, people coming to you with their problems, new opportunities that you need to work on, your fuel tank gets low. So you got to find a way, a people in your life, they're going to build you up and fuel you up, but in the same way, they're going to be honest with you when you need direct and honest feedback to just be real. But that's a great question. I'm kind of going to end on that because I like that theme. That's maybe a good one to carry through the rest of the day. How do you survey your tangible assets and your intangible assets? How do we build both of those categories? That is a great way to lead in for the rest of the session. So on that note, thank you very much. Grab some resources before you leave. Pleasure. Good luck on your businesses.